ओम पवित्रं चरितं यस्याः पवित्रं जीवनं तथा पवित्रता स्वरूपिण्यै तस्यै कुर्मो नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु श्रद्धारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। Salutations at the holy feet of Divine Almighty. My namaskars to all the respected teaching fraternity who have involved in this great task of nation building in the field of education. My dear friends, till today, in the last 6 lectures, I could cover the first 5 criteria recommended by our NAAC. Today, it's my responsibility to speak on the 6th criterion. As usual, the introductory part will be with respect to Education the Panacea, the title what I have fixed, I have chosen for the entire series of lectures in 1 year. Education the Panacea, this was coined by Swami Vivekananda in the pre-independent days with his rich experience of his wandering days, not only in his country but also even in the foreign land. Swamiji could easily come to a conclusion that unless and until a country is equipped with a good type of education, an ideal education, it is not that easy to even dream for the development of either an individual or the society at large. Most revered Swami Ranganathananda Ji Maharaj, the 13th president of Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission, while addressing the teachers, he used to guide the teachers with these 3 most important aspects pertaining to the teaching field. Whenever a teacher wants to meet Swami Ranganathananda Ji and to have some conversation with him, Swamiji used to ask him 3 important questions. Do you love your profession? That was the first question Swamiji used to ask. Do you love your subject? The second question. And finally, Swamiji used to ask him, can you treat the children sitting before you as your own children? And in continuation with his conversation, Swamiji used to tell, if you say sincerely yes for all the 3 questions, then I can assure you that you are eligible to become a good teacher. The 3 questions what Swamiji is asking a teacher who has just got inducted into this profession, that speaks volumes. So this means to say, a teacher must have greater passion for his profession and he must be very much committed to teaching the subject of his choice in a more potential way, in a more knowledgeable way, that needs swadhyaya. And finally, there should not be an iota of difference between his own children and the children of the society sitting before him to listen to him. My dear teachers, I very sincerely feel that all the 7 criteria recommended by our NAAC, they are interlinked. I can link the first criteria with the final 7th criteria, and it is vice versa also. Every criterion has got the connectivity with rest of the criteria recommended by our NAAC. And secondly, see, in whatever capacity we can train our teachers, we can provide them the reference books, so on and so forth. We can help them to take part in national and international seminars, workshops, colloquiums, so on and so forth. The basic, the first and the foremost requisite to make this system of education a success mainly depends on how much our teachers are committed to their profession. Number 2, how much they really love their profession. Is it either by choice or by chance? And finally, how much our teachers can nurture the needs of the society, keeping the society in their hearts. See, here comes the greatest difference, a notion of difference between the people working for the Department of Education and people working for any other department for that matter. So, teaching profession, as all our elders have very sincerely proclaimed, declared that it is the noblest profession. My dear teachers working for this field, I very sincerely request you, and I very sincerely ask you to be very, very alert, to be very confident in the process of teaching, and you must be in a position to convince your children at any point of time, because you are the real dictionary, you are the real reference book to the children rather than thousands of books available in our libraries. So with this introduction, I want to shed light on the aspects of how India has reverentially considered the concept of education from time immemorial. We all know the rishis of ancient India were very, very, very enlightened. And they were the accomplished persons who could sing. For example, I am quoting the example of the music world. They could sing hymns using a musical scale with 7 notes. Indian ancient education is well known throughout the world. When we go through the appreciation about India by luminaries like Arnold Toynbee, Will Durant, the world-renowned historians, even Max Muller, so many people who created a history in the field of philosophy, history, or so many other fields, they have, with open mind, they have praised India, they have appreciated India in many of the aspects, and exclusively with respect to learning process, with respect to the education system, they had the greatest appreciation. So keeping this in mind, we must try our best to study what was the education system that was prevailing in the previous centuries and previous millenniums for that matter. So these ancient rishis of India, they were very well versed, they were highly enlightened in the field of music, and they could sing the hymns using the 7 notes on the musical scale. In fact, it is said the ancient rishis were the first in human history to discover the 7 notes sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, and finally ni. And it is said the recent Western notes, do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti. It is similar to what was discovered by ancient rishis of India. The versatility of human beings in thinking, in analyzing, and in experimenting provides them with a deeper insight. This is what we call as the research aspect. To see is to observe, and to observe is to absorb. See, any research is the process of search of truth. Truth at different layers of the system, truth in depth if you want to know, we have to take up the task of research. Research should not be confined only to obtain a certificate so that will be helpful for us to have some promotions and monetary benefits during our service. They are all but secondary details. I can put it like this, they are all the byproducts, but the real product is enrichment of knowledge and wisdom. So, the thinking, the analytical approach, the experimenting will help us to have deeper insight into life, spirituality, and to develop our knowledge about the deepest truth, what we call as Atman. Therefore, the onus is on us, the responsibility is on us to dig deeper and see life from a different and a deeper perspective. It is right time and also a ripe time for looking deeper within and explore science and spirituality. As we all know, spirituality offers a deeper perspective and unfolds the uniqueness of being human. Science, through its discoveries, could empower the human beings to unfold the mystery of spirituality. Spirituality and science, they are complementary to each other. In next few minutes, I shall prove beyond doubt how they are mutually related to each other. Let us recall the words of William Wordsworth, who says, "The external world is too much with us. We have greatest affinity, attachment with the external world. Late or soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers." He has cautioned us that if you only involve yourself in the process of enjoying the external world, you may get some monetary benefits, you may get the benefits in the material form, but ultimately you will be the great loser if you don't travel inwards. Alan Lightman, in his book Searching for Stars on an Island in Maine, he says, science with heart will be the religion of the future. Science uncovers the abstract principles underlying nature, and spirituality informs us of the proper way to regard all this with vast love and awe. Swami Brahmanandaji, the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, the Manasaputra, he was very popularly known as, he beautifully guides the individuals with these words. He says, work is the means to reach the stage of meditation. My dear teachers, through work, through proper implementation of work, you can easily implement the art of meditation. You can achieve doing meditation in a very proper way. Swamiji says, learn to work for Lord instead of working for selfish motives. Know that you are worshipping the Lord through your work. If you can't work with this attitude, work will not fetch you the highest fruits. But if you can work with this mentality, work will not bind you at any point of time. On the contrary, it will improve you in every way, physically, mentally, intellectually, morally, and ultimately spiritually. If I want to become a spiritual, enlightened personality, the first and the foremost work I have to implement is I must do my part of work as the worship of God. This is the beautiful concept of the relationship between these two terminologies, work and worship, work as worship, and finally, work is worship. Raphael Epsiricuta, another great thinker and professor of mathematics in Bakersfield College, United States of America, he says very clearly about the relationship between science and spirituality. The goal of science is a complete understanding of the fundamental principles underlying the physical universe in all its diverse form. We study the universe in different diverse forms with the help of science. He says, spirituality is the awakening of wisdom concerning how we effectively relate to each other and to the world at large. Science seeks to enlighten our minds, whereas spirituality seeks to awaken our heart. Each is necessary for a full fruition of the others. Without science, our achievement in spirituality will be incomplete, and it is vice versa. Albert Einstein, another great scientist, beautifully supports this phenomenon, what I explained to you just now, the utterance of Raphael Epsiricut. Einstein says, the most beautiful and profound emotion, the most beautiful and profound emotion we can experience is the sensation of the mystical. The sensation of the mystical is the most beautiful and the most profound emotion that we can experience. Who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. If this emotion cannot be experienced by that personality, to know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull faculties can comprehend only in their primitive forms, this knowledge, this feeling is at the center of every true religion he quotes. So ultimately here Albert Einstein is defining the importance of the mystical emotion what every human being can experience. And secondly, he says, if you cannot experience this emotion, it's very sorry, you are more dead than alive. Because it is possible for every individual to have an experience of this emotion. And finally, he says, once we experience this and move forward, we will really know that every religion in the human society aims every individual to pass through this journey and experience such emotions, the mystical emotions. Rabindranath Tagore, a Nobel laureate, the first man to get the Nobel Prize in whole Asia, he, out of his own experience, he explains about the importance of Upanishads. He says, Upanishads are glorious examples of critical thinking, free explanation, and unshackled investigative research. These are the experienced words of Rabindranath Tagore. Complementary to this, Vivekananda says, Vedanta will be the future religion of the human race, which is very rational and pro towards higher degree of thinking. Upanishads also spoke about multiple intelligences. They help human beings to have a wonderful inward journey to explore the 5-layered human personality. It is very much defined in Taittiriya Upanishad. Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and finally Anandamaya Kosha. Each of these is called Atma or self, meaning thereby that each layer is an autonomous self with self-governing laws of its own. Secondly, each self has an intelligence of its own, and each is pervaded, permitted, and enveloped by that which is more interior to it. That means to say, Annamaya Kosha is being enveloped by Pranamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha is enveloped by Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha is enveloped, when we are moving inwards, ultimately Anandamaya Kosha will envelop the Vijnanamaya Kosha. At every level of the koshas, we will experience the truth at that particular level, but the ultimate truth will be experienced once we reach Anandamaya Kosha. That will be the eternal truth we come across. That will be the absolute truth we really experience. The modern idea of emotional intelligence in the digital age is but 1/5 part of this beautiful journey. It is echoing the inward investigation undertaken and documented in Taittiriya Upanishad. This speaks about the multiple intelligence at 5 different levels of human consciousness. This is an excellent knowledge and wisdom the whole world could get from ancient rishis of India who proclaimed the truths of Upanishads. Swami Vivekananda in modern times, he used to define the importance of Vedas and Upanishads in the modern language, in a modern view, with a modern outlook. Swamiji studied the human to a very great extent, and with this rich experience, he used to guide the people with these words. He says, worship strength. Weakness can never become a blessing or a boon in anybody's life. He says, strength is life and weakness is death. To define the importance of strength, Swamiji says, strength is the one thing needful. Strength is the medicine for world's disease. The whole world is in need of strength. Strength is the medicine which the poor must have when tyrannized over by the rich. Strength is the medicine that the ignorant must have when oppressed by the learned. It is medicine, strength is the medicine that sinners must have when tyrannized over by other sinners. See, ultimately, Swami Vivekananda says, you make our people strong and vibrant. My dear teachers, how can you strengthen the society? How can you strengthen the student fraternity? That is by motivating them to imbibe the message of strength, the message of adventure, the message of hard work, the message of wisdom, the message of accepting the challenges in everyday life. Swamiji says, this is the first lesson to learn in the process of spiritual evolution. Every individual must know the first lesson like this. You must be determined not to curse anybody in the outer world, not to lay the blame upon anyone outside, but be a man, stand up, lay the blame on your own self. You will find that is always true. Get hold of yourself. You are the maker of your own destiny. Any success is 99% perspiration coupled with 1% inspiration. You are answerable to all your deeds. So you must always keep in mind that it is ultimately the greatest responsibility is on your shoulders. Swamiji says, cultivate the virtue of obedience. Obedience is a must. But he cautions, but you must not sacrifice your own faith. Your faith is your strength. Faith is the greatest force. It is with the help of our own faith in ourselves we execute things. Whatever the inspiration we can draw from other people in my society, it is just a supplementary to the principal faith I am blessed with. And at any point of time, I should not sacrifice my own faith and borrow faith from rest of the people. Obedience is a must, but not at the cost of sacrificing my own faith. No centralization is possible unless there is obedience to superiors. No great work can be done without the centralization of individual forces. Swamiji says, the faculty of organization is entirely absent in dependent Indian days. But this has to be infused properly. The great secret to establish the faculty of organization can be achieved by eradicating jealousy. Be always ready to concede to the opinions of your brethren and try always to conciliate. This is the whole secret of faculty of organization. Fight on bravely. Life is short. Give it up to a great cause. These are the words of Vivekananda. He continues to caution us, try to revive society on the old grounds of universal salvation and equality as laid down by the old masters Shankaracharya, Ramanuja and Chaitanya Deva. Every work has got to pass through hundreds of difficulties before the success. Those that persevere will see the light soon or late. These are the words of greatest confidence recommended by Swami Vivekananda. Rabindranath Tagore, in our pre-independent days, beautifully writes, and this sheds light about Tagore's vision of awakened India. These are the words of inspiration to all of us, my dear teachers. We must meditate on such great words of people of great experience and rich experience. Rabindranath Tagore says, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake. An excellent poem written by Rabindranath Tagore. I request every teacher to note it down and as much as possible go through it every day before we enter into the classroom. This is the greatest message of Upanishads. Here you don't come across any individual God pertaining to any religion as such. It speaks about the eternal values, the absolute truth. In earlier days, we believed that the key drivers of economy in human society were land, labor, and capital. If you have sufficient land, if you don't come across the labor problem, and if you have huge capital, these are enough to have greater economy in our industrialization or in our firms, so on and so forth. But today, tremendous advances in the digital technology, especially in the field of photonics, biomedical technology, information and communication technology, it has enabled people across the world for so many benefits. To quote a few, the digital technologies have enabled the people across the world to enjoy a better and faster means of communication. The communication is better and faster nowadays, and stay connected even with persons far away in remote places, thousands of miles away from us. Geographical distance is not at all a matter now. Second aspect, it helps us to travel to far-flung places anywhere in the world, including outer space and deeper ocean, through sophisticated and faster modes of transportation. Thirdly, it helps us to lead more luxurious life. Next, it helps us to access and utilize better health care and medical facilities. Next is to have a longer life with increased lifespans, to access wide-ranging information on any subject, past or present, and instantaneous too. To visualize and listen to the happenings anywhere in the world in real time, sitting in our own living rooms. It helps us to order for almost anything on earth from anywhere in the world and get them delivered at our doorsteps with remarkable speed. It helps us to teach and learn any art or any subject online. See, these are the greatest advantages of digital technology education. But at the same time, my dear teachers, let us see how much digital technology education has ruined the human society. Now the human society have become the digital slaves, and this digital technology has reduced people into self-centered individuals. With digital technology, nowadays you come across lack of emotional connection in the society and family. We have greater love. It is propensity to be hurtful. We don't bother hurting other people nowadays. We come across decreased face-to-face communication skills. We have inauthentic expression of feelings. We have diminished understanding and thoughtfulness. Here, disinterested and disconnected face-to-face interaction is growing every day. People are becoming lazy. They are skewed self-image, reduced family closeness. They have constant diversions. This is the digital age. The new omniscient avatar of this digital age is none other than Mr. Google. But let us recall what our great epics like Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads recommended us to follow. So-called soft skills, the soft skills what we talk about very frequently in day-to-day life today, is the secular version of what the 16th chapter in Bhagavad Gita proclaimed as the sattvic qualities of an individual. Sattva guna, rajo guna, tamoguna. Some of the divine qualities have been recommended by Lord Krishna in 16th chapter. Much emphasis has been given to three most important aspects in this chapter. Number one, Mardavam, which means gentleness. Number two, Hri, which means modesty. Number three, Achapalam, which means steadiness in our work. So, it reminds us to go through the great works of Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, the need of the hour, because they are all eternal truths. I want to quote from the book From Good to Great, authored by Jim Collins. The harmonious combination of qualities like will and humility will produce a personality which is very high in hierarchy. The leaders who are modest and willful will be shy and fearless. Jim Collins gives the beautiful example of Abraham Lincoln. At the same time, let us sincerely analyze the two terminologies which are very frequently coined, very frequently have the currency in day-to-day life. One is fun and another is joy. Fun or amusement is temporary. Fun tends to lead us away from morality and virtue. But lasting and profound joy comes from spiritual living and self-control. The struggle to have fun in life is a superficial struggle that brings no lasting joy in spite of all our efforts. Joyfulness arises from the inner harmony that can only come from living a moral and a spiritual life. So this is the latest research paper by an American university. My dear teachers, make our children to be very partial towards joy rather than the ardent lovers of fun. A pure mind is an infinite storehouse of power. This is to be realized by our younger generation. Indulgence in sense pleasures reduces our physical stamina and intellectual vigor. It inhibits the development of higher spiritual facilities. It also involves enormous waste of money, time, and energy, which could more profitably utilized for the achievements of higher goals in life. That means to say, to achieve greater goals in the field of spirituality. One of the main reasons why many youngsters run after sensual enjoyments is their ignorance about the higher levels of happiness that are open to them. So at this juncture, my dear teachers, we must guide our children to sincerely and wholeheartedly accept the challenges in the field of how to learn, enjoying the reality of life. This is most important. So I told you fun is a secular virtue. It is very superficial in nature, whereas joy is a spiritual virtue. So in continuation of this, Then if any youngster asks me, Swamiji, tell me about how to identify the joy in our individual life and how to inculcate that process of enjoying in our life. So for that, I want to give a few ideas to our youngsters and to our listeners too. Some of the forms of pure joy can be listed like this. Joy of knowledge. Excellent it is. Even in a secular world, the acquisition of any higher knowledge or discovery of a new truth, as a result of deep study and thinking or research brings pure joy. So, my dear teachers, it is not only you to get more associated in the work of research. Your tendency to accept research and move into that field must accelerate that intuition in the upcoming researchers, I mean our students, to take up research as a great task in their future years. This joy of knowledge can get enhanced only when our teachers involve themselves in the field of research. Next is joy of selfless service. Any form of selfless service, especially the service to the poor and the sick, the needy, it brings pure joy as an unsought reward. My dear teachers, you have ample of opportunities to help the needy people in your schools and colleges so that you can enjoy the selfless service to a very great extent. The third aspect is joy of pure love. Pure love, that is, love untainted by sensual or selfish considerations. It gives a deep fount of joy. Bhakti or love for God is higher form of this love. So help our children to have devotion towards their God recommended by the religions, to inculcate the habit, the art of meditating that helps them to have the purification of love, to safeguard love from sensual and selfish considerations. The fourth one is joy of self-control. When all the sense organs are brought under the complete control, a higher form of pure joy suffuses the soul, and this is the wealth of the spiritual seekers. Finally, it is joy of meditation. The inner self is the true source of joy, but due to external disturbances and obstructions, very little of this joy is being experienced by people. So, my dear teachers, never forget to influence our children in the aspects of joy of knowledge, joy of selfless service, joy of pure love, joy of self-control, and joy of meditation. Nowadays, the upcoming universities in the West, they are constructing a meditation hall in the college campus so that our children can enjoy meditation in their own way. From tycoons to technocrats, meditation has become an object of adoration, an object of affinity, and an object of great desire. So with this first part, I mean the introduction about education, the Panacea. Now finally, it's my commitment to speak about the sixth criterion. The sixth criterion has got the title Governance, Leadership and Management. So under this title, let us have a look at the key aspects, the key indicators for governance, leadership and management. We all know the institutional vision and leadership for the institution is a must. That too, effective leadership can only set excellent values and participative decision-making process in the institution. It is required to have greater achievement with respect to the vision, the mission, and to make the motto of the goal of the institution to bring it to reality. And to develop the organizational culture, we need very effective leadership. The formal and informal arrangements in the institutions to coordinate the academic and administrative pursuits and implementation, it really reflects the institutional efforts in achieving the vision. For this, we need, number one, governance in tune with the vision and mission of the institution. Number two, decentralized administration and participative management practices. With this regard, we must have the basic human values practiced by the principal and the staff of the institution. They must be self-explanatory. The institution should guarantee that their implementation results in formation and maintenance of a healthy, peaceful, and productive community at large. Advancement in any field is definitely the result of a spirit of inquiry and the ability to face obstacles, pressures, and social expectations with great degree of confidence. Sowing seeds of aspiration in our youth empowers them to be, number one, the achievers in future years, the successful human beings, and finally, ambitious front runners. If they succeed in one of their venture, they welcome the new ventures. They want to remain the ambitious front runners to accept any challenge and move in the direction of success. Our goal is to provide our children with the tools they need to reach global standards. Today, the world is a challenging world, as we all know. At every step of our life, we have to face the challenges. An institution can provide the tools to our children so that they will accelerate and they will move to the level of the global standards. They can create and accomplish great goals also. However, in our desire to achieve global standards, we take utmost care, we have to take utmost care to convince our children about the importance of our long-standing legacy also. You should not cater the needs of the global challenges to make our children to have greater success in their day-to-day secular life. At the same time, they should respect and they should inculcate the long-standing legacy of our great culture and our civilization. The second indicator is strategy development and deployment. Under this, we must look into most important aspects like we must have the effectively displayed institutional prospects for a short time and for a longer time also. We must have the prospective plan of the institution properly and effectively displayed at every corner of the institution, and this prospect must be for a longer duration and equally for a smaller, the short duration. We must have the administrative setup and the procedures. It should be very clearly available. We must have the HR policy and the service rules. The organizational structure must be very proper. Always give importance in establishing e-governance in the administration, in the process of admission and support, for the finance and accounts, and even in the section of examination. The leadership provides clear vision and mission of the institution. The functions of the institution, its academic unit and its administrative units are governed by the leaders of the institution. And here we must have able principals and the participation of the people working under him, and we must always find the transparency in our field of work. The third aspect indicator is faculty empowerment strategies. It is needless to say that faculty empowerment is the most important ingredient of any institution. It is only the empowered faculty who can contribute their might in the process of improving the quality of the institution and to make the institution a qualitative one. Thus, it is important to have human resource as per the requirement of the program. The human resource is a must. They should not be mere numbers, something like that. They must be members. They must be very active members. And each and every teacher of our institution must have a good record of history, must have greater credentials to their credit. The faculty have to be recruited as per the approved rules and procedures of the statutory body. The performance appraisal of all appointed faculty is a must, as it helps in providing appropriate guidance and training for their improvement. The feedback from the stakeholders normally helps in identifying the gray area where the faculty needs improvement, and thus training may be organized accordingly. We are very familiar with the rich area, the green area, but in addition to that, the gray area must be identified properly and proper training must be given to the faculty members so that in future time they can contribute their might in the upcoming of the institution. Thus, for empowering the faculty, it is very important to have regular performance appraisal of the staff and to have the feedback mechanism very frequently. How to empower the faculty? So in addition to what I told you just now, we must adopt the staff welfare measures. We must take care of the welfare of the staff, the monetary benefits, the basic needs for the staff members. We must organize the staff development programs, the faculty development programs also. The average percentage of teachers provided with the financial support to attend the conferences and workshops should be recorded very frequently. In last 1 year, how many of our teachers have undergone the training? In last 3 years, what is our score? In last 5 years, what is our score? The people who were introduced to a richer form of training, an intensive training, are they really potential enough to influence their own staff members of the department? These are the challenges before the senior teachers and the teachers who have taken more and more number of trainings. Equally, the professional departmental training programs must be organized even for non-teaching staff members also. It pains me a lot to bring to your kind notice that in the governmental offices, in the offices of the higher officers belonging to any department for that matter, even the clerical staff will not offer a chair to the people of high esteem. A professor who worked for more than 25 years, he will be standing in front of this second division clerk and he will be giving some details what he is demanding for. Even a clerical staff will not offer a chair to a rich, experienced professors. I have heard that this attitude of the working, non-teaching staff can find a solution for all such deficiencies, I say. It is not a defect, deficiency. By arranging some faculty development program for even the non-teaching staff. This is really painful. This is really painful. When the same clerk is transferred to the college, he will be most obedient to his professors and principals here. But in the central office, when he is working under an officer who is superior to the principal and professors, he doesn't care even to offer a chair to his senior professor. This is really very, very painful. And finally, the financial support for the faculty for professional growth like research, paper presentation, and publication must be properly encouraged. The management, the college management, the faculty development management must always seriously consider to help of our faculty members to take up research work, encourage them to go for paper presentation, and even encourage them to have a few books to their credit by adopting the process of publication. The next indicator is financial arrangement and resource mobilization. Budgeting and optimum utilization of the finance as well as mobilization of the resources are the issues considered under this key indicator. There are established procedures and processes for proper planning and allotment of financial resources. The institution has to develop strategies for not only mobilizing the resources, and also it must ensure transparency in financial management of the institution. The income and expenditure of the institution must be subjected to internal and external audit regularly. Fund mobilization should be successfully achieved by arranging financial power with government, non-government organizations, individuals, and philanthropists. It's a Herculean task, but if you are determined, you can do your might. We have come across so many upcoming universities where the vice chancellors and people working for the institution, they really begged, going to the doorstep of rich people in the society, people with that mentality, to help their institutions for their upcoming. Tumakuru University in Karnataka is the best example for such greater achievements. I shall quote that when Dr. S.C. Sharmaji was Vice Chancellor here, he could organize nearly 100 crore rupees for the upcoming of the university. He established study centers, research centers, the guest house facility, and the basic needs for the children. And it is a model university today in the whole state. Within a span of 3.5 to 4 years, he could make the university self-efficient and self-sufficient. These are all the things that mainly depends on the working skills of the person at the helm of affairs. If the vice chancellor and registrar, they really mind, many a times they need not too much worry about the government help. They can invite the alumni, they can invite the philanthropists and request for the need of the university. The last indicator I want to quote about, I want to explain is the internal quality assurance system, IQAS. Most important indicator it is. To succeed in this, every organization must have the internal quality assurance cell. It can significantly contribute for institutionalizing the quality assurance strategies and the processes. IQAC has got a significant role in continuous improvement of the quality and achieving academic excellence. The institution must have mechanism for academic auditing and administrative auditing too. IQAC must organize regular meetings. There must be updates very frequently. For the development of the institution, we must have a constitution, a memorandum of association for IQAC. We must have a special, separate constitution for IQAC. IQAC must aim at quality enhancement. Number 2, sustenance strategies also. It must be bold enough to face any new challenges that may come across in our day-to-day life. And IQAC must look into the matter something like the incremental growth the institution can achieve in last 5 years, the best practices of the institution in the last 3 to 5 years, the successfully conducted programs in collaboration with other institutions, the greater degree how we could renew what all the things we did in the past years, and any improvement is required to be inculcated in the implementation of the methodologies what we followed in the previous years, and what are the learning outcomes in the previous years. Not only that, the participation in the National Institute Ranking Framework examinations and ISO certificates, etc., should be properly observed by IQAC. So if these 5 indicators are taken care of, definitely the institution can grow into a benevolent institution, a sustainable institution. It can set an example for rest of the institutions to follow and to grow into a very successful institutions in future. My dear teachers, so these are the things I wanted to discuss with you all, and with an introduction, of course, about education, the panacea. So with these words, I shall conclude today's lecture. The subject was pertaining to Criterion 6. And in the 8th lecture next month, I shall discuss about the last criterion propounded by our NAAC. So thank you very much for your patience listening. Jai Ram Krishna, Harihi Om Tat Sat, Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.